Hello, folks in YouTube. Welcome to another episode of my Realpolitiks Let's Play. This is Northstar. I hope you're all well, taking care of each other, and being kind to yourselves. It's been a little bit, at least in real life time, since the last video. Although I have such a large buffer, I guess there won't be any gap for any of you. Hold on. Sorry about that. Text. Yeah, I decided I'm gonna do not disturb it. I can't be constantly being interrupted whenever I'm actually anything done in terms of YouTube streaming. I haven't been productive enough lately. Been eating away at buffers, and I desperately need to get large buffers in series because they all eventually lose interest and then move on to new ones to get up volume for my channel so that I can get my YouTube channel so I can monetize it and survive with my long COVID. Oh yeah, for those new to my channel, welcome, by the way. I am disabled on COVID. I am trying to get my channel to where I can monetize it and supplement, hopefully, SSI and survive. Because my savings won't last forever. And SSI might not exist forever. Anyways, for those wondering what the heck is going on here, I'm playing as Macedonia. If you didn't see the, I guess it doesn't have a flag in the corner. No, it does have a flag up here. Playing as Macedonia, I also control the province of Deponia, which is an underseas base off the coast of the western coast of South America, very deep waters there in the Pacific. For underseas resources, which is why I have an insane amount of resources from provinces, 138. So even with my army projects that consume natural resources, which fossil fuel energy right now, although soon fossil fuel energy focus, which I'll up that to 48 natural resources for projects, and then 10 used to add new buildings. That's these 2 next-gen cities. 13 for my army. And I have 5 additional resources from probably an event or something. I'm not sure where those came from. Anyways, it's been a bit. I don't remember everything that was gone, but I do remember I just won a war against Serbia, which attacked me, and liberated Kosovo, which they conquered at the outset of the game. I think Serbia starts with a claim in Kosovo, or maybe they actually got an event or added one manually. The AIs very rarely will actually try and fabricate cores on nations they don't like, especially. It's extremely rare. The AI is pretty passive in this game, which is probably realistic in that you don't see everyone trying to conquer the world that aggressively in real life. Right now there's a race for the Antarctic. Costs a whole lot of AP to compete in. It's been going on for a little bit. And the Olympic Games. Tends to be even fiercer competition. There's no long-term benefit, less long-term benefit than getting Antarctic base. Let's see. I'm doing fossil fuel energy focus. That'll give me a bunch of AP. I'm probably gonna try and claim a fabricated core in Albania, or I could just conquer them if they attack me. What's my debt look like? I'm not about to go bankrupt, am I? No. How much would this cost? 500 money. That's substantial. Increase my debt, and 300 AP. Cost me 19 resources to claim a core? Am I reading that right? Why does it tie up 19 resources? That doesn't even make sense. Whatever. Maybe it's if you have really high resources. Takes 10 months. Yeah, I should get on that. Okay, my debt is now 1645. I can probably sustain that, but I could be wrong. I'll be able to compete for Antarctica. Oh, actually, that won't be for a while. You know what? Shoot. Let's just go back and reload. Also, you get to see the cool random illustrations, which are probably the biggest selling point of this game, the cutesy illustrations of world leaders at the time the game was made. So Obama, I think, was in power at the time. Or maybe it was after Obama, because Trump also shows up. I think he showed up during one of the DLCs, and so they had him. The world's environment is degraded due to nuclear wars somewhere. And I have heavy war losses, which should be affecting my population growth. Now I'm at peace, I thought, but nope, doesn't seem to. The effect seems to be almost entirely one of increasing unhappiness target. And it's only 5%, so not a big deal. Okay, yeah, I'll compete for Antarctica. I'll try for a claim on Albania as soon as I finish fossil fuel energy focus and 1500 AP drops in my lap. Bunch of aircraft, tanks. It's not like I'm going to be attacking anyone. Well, I shouldn't say that for sure. My political system is currently authoritarian, so I could just attack Albania and even annex them if I just decreased relations. You know, I could do an NAP here. What'll score our relations with Kosovo? And failed. But it was very cheap, so it was worth trying. Probably want to bring them into my bloc eventually, although I need 7 more military units. 6 more there. Do I have the army capacity to get 25? Nope, I don't. Why is Bulgaria only required 22, but Kosovo 25? It's because they failed the army by Serbia. Yeah, I could invade Albania and then, quote, liberate them, and it'd be easy to maintain on my bloc, and peacefully annex Albania to complete. This, whenever you annex a nation, even if it's peacefully, you get a core automatically. I don't know. We'll see. 22 units now. I suppose they should try to form a bloc with Bulgaria. They can help me in my wars, if nothing else. Improve relations for that. So a peace treaty with them already, it looks like. Yep, non-aggression pact, actually. Introduce research center. 700 AP to do. It's not a task that's cost effective, although it can lead to, by then, pick up lasers. Not horrendously expensive. Smart mines, precision bombs, which will help enormously with being able to win wars. It's not nearly as expensive as, say, an arms industry. Yeah. Just need enough of an edge to win. Well, anyways. my population keeps growing, I should eventually be able to get 25 units. So maybe Kosovo I can peacefully annex, which was why I liberated them in the hopes of peacefully annexing someday. So real life, let's see, I was having a discussion with a roommate recently. He was like, oh, subject to socialism came up. It's like Venezuela, and I had to try and explain him. No, Venezuela is not socialist. It has a socialist ruling party, but their system is a multi-party system, and the Socialist Party, while being the largest party, doesn't have enough votes to prevent them from, I forget if they're being filibustered or they have a minority of the seats or whatever it is. They can't pass most of the legal and economic changes. I mean, economic changes by law, things like nationalizing most industries. They managed to reach across the aisle and nationalize their oil industry, which got the U.S. to put sanctions on them, which decreased support for the ruling party, and then they haven't been able to nationalize hardly any other industries. They faced strong opposition to reform their government into essentially, I think the ruling party is basically Marxist-Leninist, so they do want to increase the power of the army and intelligence services to suppress opposition. And I mean, I don't think they're democratic socialist, although they came to power via elections, but they're not a socialist state is the point. They're a state with a socialist ruling party that is constantly failing to actually become socialist. Give me a sec. Sorry, someone thanking me for sending him a link to a game giveaway that was going on. Some Steam friends that. But yeah, it's something worth knowing if you're all curious about the world and want to know facts instead of propaganda that, media and pundits and honestly sometimes even outright propaganda, like the stuff that politicians say and then not even media figures, like just lying politicians saying people believe and internalize. But if you want to know the truth, I mean, that's kind of the truth about that particular country, and it's kind of ridiculous. Someone decided to influence my political system. Okay. Looks like they increased interventionism, so they moved me to the left economically. The game is on the right, but towards socialism, basically. They may have decreased my militarism, and it looks like they increased my personal control. I wonder who did it. I could look around for likely targets, but help the little ones. Our agriculture policies are causing various insects to slowly die, like honeybees, probably, which there's strong evidence have been weakened by certain pesticides, though the companies that make these pesticides work to try and cast into doubt, the same way that oil companies cast into doubt evidence of climate change, the scientific evidence that certain pesticides that are making honeybees vulnerable to colony collapse syndrome. Of course, the honeybees are also weakened by changes in land use. They give them less food sources, and climate change, which puts heat stress on colonies in areas that were used to colder temperatures or such, or causes them to face new parasites. So it's climate change, it's pesticides, it's change in land use. There's a lot of things that are weakening honeybees. It's not just the pesticides, but it definitely does relate to agricultural policies, despite attempts to obfuscate this and make it something that people don't know why it's happening, and it's in doubt, and that we need more research as long as possible to delay changes. Because under capitalism, this gets to why, well, actually, I was thinking about my roommates, like, I don't want to talk politics. There's a lot of reasons people want to talk politics, but one reason is people feel like it's always a losing battle. Let me read this off and I'll circle back to that. Our agriculture policies are causing various insects to slowly die. Here at Peace Planet, so this is an NGO event, we believe that every life is sacred and should be protected, including that of honeybees. Something should be done to help them. Farmers will have to accept that some losses in their crops are necessary for those insects to survive. So what they're referring to is less use of pesticides to kill unwanted insects so that the honeybees don't die as well. That's basically what this event is about. Do nothing. Peace Planet will be angry. I'll lose a lot of score because I guess all the honeybees in Macedonia die off, and my score gets roughly cut in half. Or we must protect them. Costs a little AP. It's going to hurt my HDI a bit. still under industry, so must protect them. This shifted me to democracy? It's peace planet? I don't know. Relations of the world, your natural resources. Yeah, I'm only getting 136 from provinces. Less extraction. It's substantial at my GDP growth. But warmonger now decreases faster. So that actually helps me be more of an aggressor. Of course, you have to have war militarism to get the next. For me to meet the current demands they're making, but it's ironic that I can become more of a warmonger. Oh, or maybe that was a delayed effect. Yeah, my militarism actually decreased. I'm now over my unit capacity, which has no immediate effect. But if the UN passes sanctions, any unit then over their capacity. So if they did sanctions on authoritarianism, where is it? Somewhere here. It might be disabled as a option. No, this one. Reduces army limit of authoritarian systems by 20%. And I was back under authoritarianism instead of democracy. Which you can see the political system will shift back to authoritarianism in the next elections. Just barely on the line between authoritarian and democracy. And so my army capacity will go down even further, and it'll force me to scrap units, or it'll automatically do it when it give me a choice of which ones, down to my army cap, unit cap, which will be taking 23, reducing that by a further, I think, what is this, 20%, and then any units over are scrapped. So this can be a problem, even though it's currently no real consequence. It's going to delay me getting 25 units even for longer, though. Alright. Why 0% chance of joining my bloc? I meet all the requirements, but they don't want to form a bloc with me, Bulgaria, for any reason. Maybe because I'm smaller than them. Normally it's like distance to capital, but there might be some historical reason in the jig. Whereas these guys would do it if I had enough units. I don't know what's up with that. Proven relations might reduce the chances of them attacking me or something, but it was wasted resources. Keep an eye out to see if anything changes. Currency wars probably doesn't help. It's my warmonger rating because I am. Look at that. That's internal. It's already down to 0. Whew. Diplomatic offensive is. If I cancel it, there's a cooldown until I can use it again. I might do some things that I was also hoping to keep relations high enough to maybe do a bloc with Bulgaria. Or to bring Kosovo into. So they would only be 74, they'd only be at 67 relations. I don't know. Also worried about getting attacked by like Greece. Greece is somewhat more powerful than me. I have a large army, but it's expensive for such a small nation. Going further into debt. Bankruptcy at 2988. Debt. Oof. That's next month. Brick. Anything can do to delay that. And if it's just by a month. Nope, taxes have stupid. No matter how you jack up taxes in this game, you get almost no money from it. Nothing that's gonna dump money in my lap. Nothing that can delay this. I'm going to show me how many AP it would be to do a peace treaty there. And I'm going to go bankrupt before I can put more AP there. All right. I guess it just comes down to spending APY. Let's try and start a war with Albania so I can get a... Maybe I'll just annex him. Have diplomatic offensive active. I've been running this. This costs a little bit, but if I cancel it, there's a cooldown. It's like, The sooner I go into debt, the sooner I can start recovering. Is there anything I can spend money on immediately? Goodness, I didn't go to the service industry quite yet. I don't know. Yeah, these guys want me to improve relations with Greece. Let's do that. I'll spend some of my AP. Not going to gain control of anything in space. Oh, give aid to a bunch of countries, and that'll improve relations with the People's Democratic Front again. Which will mainly raise interventionism and decrease bankruptcy frequencies. Okay, so nothing really to do besides... Guess I can help these guys since this could fail. Got the resources to spare. Yeah, let's help Greece. In Kosovo, it's tiny. Use the money. Montenegro, maybe. They're in the area. Someday they're gonna probably annex them. I probably don't want them going bankrupt too often. Yeah. Oh, in the UK, they want Deponia from me. They're not getting it. Do that so they send fewer spies against me. And bankruptcy. Maybe it's my frequent bankruptcies that are preventing me from forming a bloc. I don't know. Which also prevents me from actually maintaining one. Like if there's a unexpired bankruptcy modifier that was there before or something. I don't know. 25-ish minutes. Just about time I can start a war with Albania. Want some back to authoritarianism. Cost 8 AP though. And next elections would be July. This is the European dating system, so July 1st this year. Cool. Which decreased relations will still be active then. Some of them might just attack me, though unlikely because my military is larger. So where was I? So I don't love this number of natural resources. It's a symbol for far right movements. You didn't know that number. Not a fan. I'm of course a leftist, a socialist. I strongly dislike fascists of all stripes. Improve relations with Greece. Oh, well, good thing I did the help because the bankruptcy, that won't happen until they either get over the bankruptcy or, well, the help action. Kosovo, be a future bloc mate if I can avoid bankruptcy long enough to annex them that way. Negro someday might form east to Yugoslavia with if the event actually is even possible. But yeah. And these guys actually like that I provided help to Greece. Socialists are all, you must help the whole world. This point, warmonger decrease is, I don't lose warmongers fast because this socialist influence of a peace planet, I guess I'm a peaceful socialist. People don't, they cancel each other. I get really high support from them. I can replace infantry cheaper, which helps with, I guess, swamping my neighbors with numbers in a war. If I have a really high population, the population will be more willing to sign up and join the military. But yeah, there's all sorts of reasons people don't like talking politics. Sometimes it's just too tired. It's mentally draining. Sometimes it's because they got a lot going on in their life, so it's more long-term tired. Sometimes it's because politics just feels like no matter what they do, it doesn't matter. That is because even if you vote and stuff regularly and are active, it is kind of a losing battle. Ordinary people are always working against the power of lobbyists and billionaires who can pay people to just full-time influence politicians. That's what lobbying, but also like think tanks and various NGO influence groups are all about. And astroturfing and just the propaganda networks. Basically, right. Democracy is worse from our government, except for all the others. That's a Winston Churchill quote. Churchill was, by the way, an evil bastard who should not have been heroized. FDR was the real hero of World War II. Churchill, genocidal monster who did 2 famine genocides. Use that word. YouTube censor me now because of politics of what's going on in a certain other part of the world, even though I'm not referring to that at all. I'm referring to the British Empire and famine genocides they did in, show on the map, Iran, which, where is it? The UK invaded and occupied during both World War I and World War II. It was occupied. I forget if Iran was already under British control or whatever, but they invaded during World War II on the Soviet Union. And during the British occupation of all of Iran in World War I, they did a famine genocide. Then when World War II rolled around, Churchill wasn't responsible for that, but when World War II rolled around, the British and Soviets carved up Iran again, temporary occupation zones to control the oil and such, weaken the axis. And in the British occupation zone, the British sequestered so much food and agriculture machinery and intentionally raised taxes so much and all these other policies that they created a famine. It was intentional. It was to break the will of the Iranian people because they were hoping to dominate Iran after World War II, which the British did, in fact, until there was a politician came to power who tried to minimize British influence. There was a whole thing, and then the Shah of Iran was partly Western influence. The British were trying to bring Iran to a sphere of influence, and so by starving a whole bunch of people to death, they hoped to reduce the will to resist them. And they did that in the British occupied zone, and then claimed to the Soviets, oh, we can't feed the people in Iran, send help. And they expected the Soviets wouldn't do it. It was just for posturing, but the Soviets actually did. They sent food aid, and that stopped the famine in British occupied parts of Iran. Because then the British had no excuse when the Soviet Union was sending them food from the Soviet occupied areas of Iran and southern parts of the Soviet Union, actually, like Kazakhstan, these areas to the north, as well as the northern part of Iran, which is under Soviet occupation, which the Soviets did everything they could to eat agricultural yields and avoid a famine in their occupied areas, so they didn't have famines there. The food was a little tight because they were sending food aid to the British occupied areas because the British were starving the people there. But a lot of people died before the Soviets, before the request for food aid to the Soviet Union. The Soviets actually did provide that food aid and saved a lot of lives. A lot of lives, because the first Iranian famine genocide the British Empire did, some reports, although these are contested, have as many as 1 million people starving. There weren't good statistics or census data or anything, so some estimates have it as low as like a few tens of thousands deaths, and some have as high as 1 million. There's a huge range. This is one of the things where we really don't know how many people died, but the British did intentionally starve people to death during World War One. Anyways, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. Unfortunately, at this time, the flaws of the system are very prominent. So it's like a Trump or something running. Perhaps we should help people make wiser decisions. It says decision, but it's written by people I don't think English was the first language. Let democracy work. It was for an NAP, or influenced elections, which will cause personal control. Target to go up by 2. I'm at 11, the target is 0, so it'll drop by 2, which is the most it can, no matter what. So a little unhappiness or AP. Influenced elections, save some AP at the cost of higher unhappiness. I am trying to see what those AP. I'd like to spend on some on this, and then a war in Albania pretty soon, after the elections. But yeah, politics feels like a losing battle. God, stupid events. I'm trying to talk and then end this video. And so the game, of course, predictably gives me 50 events. One of the most controversial figures of our political scene just passed away. He's a fierce adversary of the government, but also a patriot with a large group of loyal followers. Now they want to prepare an official state funeral. Money and AP, or ignore it, and even higher unhappiness. Shoving a box in the ground with the rest of them. I'll risk the riot. If I think what happened before is I literally beat all the rioters, like destroyed every single rebel unit, and I didn't get the follow-up event where you get score and your unhappiness resets to 0 if you beat a rebellion. I think what it is you have to have some surviving rebel units when you reach 100% victory score. Essentially that represents capturing some of the rebels, and then you put them through the courts and try them as traitors. If you kill them all, you don't get the PR of putting them through your court system. So I screwed up there. Or maybe it was just a bug. Either way, if you win, you'll have you'll take some of them captive in most cases, and you'll get a bunch of score, and unhappiness are set to 0. Which means provoking a rebellion and then beating it can actually be a viable strategy in certain cases. Anyways, because I really need to end this video, it's way too long. Politics can feel like a losing battle because lobbyists, because of the power of the rich. Sometimes people say they don't want to talk politics, actually, just because they have really shitty views and they don't want to defend them. But certain family members who made their careers in the military-industrial complex to take that view with what they know what's going on in parts of the world with the U.S. bombing countries and, well, currently not bombing countries, although we did in Yemen, along with the Saudis, but most of the airstrikes were actually the Saudis, but the U.S. provided the bombs, and the U.S. provided aerial reconnaissance, and I think some of the bombs were actually dropped by the U.S. We're certainly bombing them now, or saying missiles, rather. People call it bombing, it's technically missile strikes, but either way, with it's become incredibly apparent the military industrial complex is not a force for good. And all the fancy weapons US has just makes it invincible, so we can bomb people with impunity and no one can like attack the US to stop it because there's not a prayer of winning. Oh god. Serbia just joined the bloc of Russia. That's bad? Oh no, wait. I think nations that are in a bloc, can they? I think that takes away their ability to declare war, since Russia is the bloc leader, and Russia doesn't hate me. Okay, relations are 39. Russia doesn't hate me, but they don't. If I get a negative event with them or something, they could attack me. And if I'm wrong, Serbia could attack me and bring the whole Russian army on my head. Either way, this is really dangerous. This counts as Russia having a land border on me now. I better not piss off the Russians, or I could be annexed and game over. They're one of the few AI nations that tends to absorb people. However, they're totalitarian. They get debuffs in relations with democracies. So being authoritarian is a good thing. It means relations with the Russians just went up to 47. That's definitely a good thing, assuming, and actually relations should be high with Serbia, since they were also authoritarian, which comes with a debuff. So, yeah, it still says 25, but the relations should have gone up to 30. It definitely went up with Russia, though. Alright. I guess I can wait a month on this. I'm only going to be able to do this one more time. Wait till, so I don't have to carry the debt so long, but I'm going to try for the Antarctic one more time. So, variety of reasons people say I want to talk politics. Sometimes they're tired or don't have time. Sometimes they're just exhausted or depressed or overwhelmed by their lives. Sometimes they have shitty views they don't want to defend. That's very common. Some people I've met say that they have outright fascist views and they just don't want to have to defend their horrendous views. Some people feel hopeless. Some people have no understand political theory and they just find it all too complicated, which goes into being tired and stuff. Maybe I'll eventually figure out what it really meant with this guy. Anyways, I'm going to save here, cut the video. I will see you all later. Take care of each other, be kind to yourselves, and me. Always find a guiding star, tweet out. Until next time, it's Northstar, I do, and best luck.